Capsule. In 1962, John Glenn became the first American to orbit the Earth, and he did so in the Friendship 7 Mercury capsule. One of the things that's most amazing to me about the Friendship 7 is just how tiny it is. It's extraordinarily small, accommodating only astronauts shorter than 5'11". I'm glad I'd make the cut. Well, now that it's no longer behind glass, I got to experience the Friendship 7 up close and personal at the Smithsonian's Air and Space Museum alongside my friend and retired astronaut, Colonel Katie Coleman. And she gave a first-hand account of just what it's like to spend days in space in such tiny quarters. Hey everybody, Adam Savage alongside Katie Coleman. Hello, friend.
Hello.
We are in a really exciting place this morning at the Udvar Hazy Center, the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum, and behind us is a really rare treat, the Friendship 7 Mercury capsule. This has been behind glass for decades, and while the downtown museum is being renovated, it's here at Udvar Hazy, and we get to see it
Like up close, no touching.
No touching. Everyone has to tell me no touching because I want to put my hands on everything. When I see this thing in person, every single time I'm astounded by how tiny it is.
Just, I mean, like it's something you put on. You don't like climb in and strap into you strap it on and then you go.
There's that description of a spacesuit as an anthropomorphic spaceship, which I love, but this is barely larger in a lot of respects.
I would agree.
1 millimeter of steel, and like. So you went up on the Soyuz?
I did.
Okay, so that is a reasonable modern analog of what it might be like in this, yes?
My favorite part of 6 months on the station was actually the trip up there where we actually spend a day and a half in our Soyuz capsule.
So you launch?
We launch, and then we spend a day and a half orbiting by ourselves, just the three of us, and I really felt like one of the early Mercury, Gemini, Apollo astronauts in a small, I mean, because it's just you. It's not a big ship, it's just you, and there's nothing between you and everything.
And you can all feel that.
It's magical.
It is, because I found myself wondering, like, if you're with someone you even find remotely annoying, it could be a nightmare.
You know, it doesn't, I mean,
that's not part of the equation.
It doesn't. And especially that day and a half. I mean, we have like 6 months to work all those things out and the 3 years of training before that.
Right, okay. Sure, fair enough.
But for that time, I mean, it is just the three of you with your eyes like as big as saucers and realizing, and nobody even expects you to talk to them or do anything because it's just this couple, like a day and a half to get ready and make sure you feel well for rendezvous and docking with the space station. And so it is your time alone, awake, asleep. It's
honestly,
yours.
That's probably the experience that the Mercury astronauts would have preferred to have rather than all the stuff they had to do.
Exactly.
Let's go over to the other side where we can get a better look.
It's an amazing thing.
Yeah. I can barely remove the grin from my face because I'm astounded at being this close. But the things that I notice when I'm right here is, one, all of these...
No touching. No touching.
These are little hex bolts, and all of these are Phillips-headed screws holding that outer shielding on.
Just like you'd use in your house, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know that when they pulled this out of the display case downtown and brought out this is the original piece of equipment they
Really? This is the stand?
Yeah. This is the stand that was built for it. So someone pulled that panel off with a screw gun and attached it. There's so much about it that feels so handmade, like I could have participated in the construction.
It's awesome.
I'm not sure that's a good thing.
Well, it does mean that everyone could make one at home, right?
Yes,
but actually,
exactly.
Maybe we could.
So, how big is the Soyuz compared to... This is 6.5 feet long. It is so incredibly tiny. The Soyuz fits three of you.
Three of us, but I would say... I mean, it's not that much bigger than this because we're sitting this close.
Right, you're like this.
I mean, shoulder to shoulder.
For a day and a half.
So when we go up on the Soyuz, it's actually like the size of 3 smart cars.
Oh,
Okay. There's a
okay.
propulsion part.
Yeah.
There's the middle part where we are sitting, which is not that much bigger than this right here. And then there is what I call the extra living room, which has the docking adapter on it. So that's what attaches. So if we have to spend a couple days in space, we actually have the thing we're sitting in plus a place that looks really spacious in training, but actually is then packed with cargo. But still, you can still get to the windows and look out. And I mean, it's just like you're looking, and it's just you being up there in a spacecraft, just the three of us.
I mean, I feel like that must unite you directly to the original Mercury astronauts, to Gagarin, you
Exactly.
know?
I mean, I feel like it's one thing to be in a space shuttle. I mean, but when it's just you and some metal and you're going around the Earth, I felt like this is where they were. This is where they went. Now I'm there too.
Do you have a desire to climb in? I feel like I want to know what it's like to sit there and click all those switches.
Hello. Well, and the fact that it's not something you would, I don't know how they managed they probably had to strap themselves in because there's not room in there for a person to get in there. And I'm sure they did, but to actually get them in there.
And apparently, I only just learned that one of the egress points of this capsule was through the nose.
Right.
That there is a way in which the pilot could somehow climb past the control panel.
And climb out of there.
Yeah.
Pretty skinny. They were smaller guys, okay?
They were.
Yay for the small people.
I don't know what you think when you look at the heat shield, but I look at the burning on the heat shield, and Nick was pointing out off camera that it actually looks almost like the moon.
Exactly. Yep. Well, and the fact that these things are designed to burn up.
Right.
Okay. And when we re-enter in the Soyuz, we actually talked to the crew that just re-entered, the one that just came down, a few months before, and they tell us the story of, okay, so Katie, you are in a spacecraft, okay, and then you're going to be coming in for re-entry. You're going to see pieces of burning spacecraft go by the window. It's okay.
This is Scott Kelly telling you this?
Scott's pretty blunt. It's an e-ticket ride. Coleman, you are going to love this. But when you see those burning things, just go. It is. If somebody didn't tell you it was okay, even though in a diagram, in a class, in training, they said this will happen, when somebody says this is going to happen and it's okay, feel better.
Do you feel the heat inside?
Oh, definitely.
Wow.
It warms up.
Wow.
Yep.
That's got to be terrifying.
It's you trust and you trust in the math. There is goop on the bottom of that spacecraft, and enough that it's going to protect you. It's thick enough to protect you, but enough that keeps ablating away that makes you light enough to actually get back home, right? But I wondered, in looking around at the heat shield on this one, did you see that there's a little bit of a gap? It's almost like a plug. I'm like, was that supposed to have the little gap? And fortunately, you can't see, right? And in fact, for this spacecraft, they did have a suspicion that the heat shield was not firmly in place.
Really?
And they actually asked for the retro rocket package not to be jettisoned as soon as it should have, in order to just give more assurance that the heat shield itself would stay in place. So it was a very tense landing.
Wow, I had no idea. Did not realize that.
Absolutely.
It's funny, so the same trust that you're placing in all of the hundreds and thousands of people that you've been working with before going, and you understand the work that they did and the dedication they put in, John Glenn's doing the same thing.
Well, and in fact, in a really special case for John Glenn, it was the time when computers started doing these same calculations of, how do we get people up to space, back home again? What is the math behind that?
Right.
And he was the first person to go with the computer calculations. The computer was doing this. And he said, hey, I am not going until that woman, the smart one, Katherine Johnson, verifies the calculations of this computer, because it was new.
Right.
This is when IBMs were bigger than your house, right?
I love that, because the women that were doing those calculations were, in the early days of World War II, called computers.
They were the computers.
They were called, that was the job title.
Exactly. And the fact that it's humans as well as...
Well, that's the thing this story continues to tell, is that it's humans.
Exactly.
We were looking at the Starship Enterprise yesterday, and you were talking about how our future is all smooth and rounded and with beautiful lines, but it all stems from this.
It's true. Well, and I think in a way, I mean, physics hasn't changed, and the modern spacecraft, the ones that everybody is building and on our planned journey to the moon, I mean, these are all capsules. But I think when we look back at Star Trek, we expected it to look cooler, but
Right.
physics keeps us here, and when you really want to come home, I say go with physics.
Well, you could also imagine the aliens watching us are like, have they exited the capsule stage of exploration yet? Nope, they're still in the capsule stage. All right, we know what that means.
I think you're right. I would like to wear one of these.
Right?
Yeah, I mean,
I want to build one out of cardboard, which I'm going to do someday, because there's some way. This is smaller than any car I've ever owned, volumetrically.
I tell people the Soyuz is like, a smart car.
Right.
I mean, it's like, it is that size, and it is just that and you in the blackness of space. And what did we say, a millimeter here?
I think it's actually less. Well, I'm looking. The outer covering looks like it's about 20 thousandths thick, about half a millimeter. But I'm not sure what the actual skin on the inside is.
I mean, I think it comes back to the fact that space is hard. I mean, that's what I have felt. I've launched 3 times.
Yeah.
And, in the Soyuz, that rocket is smaller. You feel every little thing. I mean, it's not you and some big giant stack of fuel and all this. I mean, you feel everything. And you realize it is really hard for people to leave the planet. And
Right.
it takes every one of them that turned each of these screws, that designed the cockpit, that strapped people in, that designed the straps. I mean, there's so many human contributions. And that's what it takes.
And every bump and rattle is like that human effort,
Well,
pushing
still,
you up.
It's a little scary.
Yeah. Okay, it's so thrilling to look at this, and even better hearing your stories and your first-person account. Because, oh man,
It's a special thing.
It really
and
is.
pretty wonderful that more people are going.
I agree. I totally agree. I hope to go someday.